Riddle me this, Bat Dorks, which villain is Batman's greatest? I'm going to contend that there's one for each aspect of Batman. For example, Selina Kyle is Bruce Wayne's, the Jokers might be the Dark Knights, Batman proper might be Bane, but the opponent of the world's greatest detective, I'm going to go ahead and say the Riddler. And this week, we're going to get a really new interpretation of this longtime DC villain. So on the Doomcast this week, I'm going to dive into his origin and history, both on screen and off, over the last 74 years. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. It's not easy to overstate Bill Finger's contributions to Batman as a character. Almost everything about Batman, other than the concept of wealthy vigilante dressing in a costume, we owe to Bill Finger. Now, some of the villains we also owe as well. Riddler was introduced in Batman in Detective Comics 140 in 1948 by Bill Finger and writer Dick Sprang. Yes, a man's perfectly real name. The Riddler has since posed a unique challenge to Batman. So what I was saying earlier, the Joker is chaos to Batman's order, Catwoman is desire and playfulness in the face of Batman's stoic sternness, and Bane is brutal cruelty in the face of Batman's relentless self-sacrifice. But the Riddler is a purer challenge than all of that. It's a mystery to be solved by the world's greatest detective. The Riddler's origin is benign enough. He possesses no actual powers beyond an above-average intellect. Now, the boy named Edward Nygma grew up fascinated with riddles, puzzles, and brain teasers of all kinds, and he builds a personal reputation on his ability to solve puzzles in school as a child with a very normal-looking head like this. He fixed puzzles and brain teasers to make himself look smarter than he actually was. He finds himself using his intellect to cheat and grift in adult life as a carnival barker with a marked Chinese puzzle, but longing for a greater challenge, he dons a green unitard and dancer's mask to help people learn how to make money in ways that the government... Actually, wait, that's Matthew Lesko. So to challenge Batman as he thinks of Batman as an intellectual peer. He first gives Batman a crossword clue to his crimes, floods a bank vault, then flushes himself out, even holds the city hostage with a truck full of creamed corn shaped like corn on the cob. Even calls it corny, but then he finally traps Batman in a life-size maze, complete with death traps, which is rigged to explode, but Batman and Robin break the maze and trap him at the end of a pier with a bomb, which results in his apparent death. But of course he lived and became a mainstay villain, even appearing on screen in the 1966 live-action Batman show, portrayed originally by Frank Gorshin, and then John Astin, father of Sean Astin, who played Samwise Gamgee if you're old, or Rudy if you're really old. And if you're from a generation where home ownership was an actually accomplishable dream in your 20s or 30s, you'll remember him as Patty Duke's son. Anyway, of course, in the mid-90s, during the Schumacher Batmans, Jim Carrey famously portrayed Edward Nygma in Batman Forever, co-starring with his spandex bulge. Was that over the top? Yes. Yes. In the Arkham series of games from Rocksteady, Riddler appears frequently as both a visual and often technical puzzle provider for the advancement of the game, as well as a highly rewarding series of side quests. Probably some of the most fun that I've had in those games at all. Comics fans, of course, remember the pivotal role in Hush, where he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, which led him to seek the Lazarus Pit as treatment, through which he had an epiphany as to Batman's true identity as Bruce Wayne. He also vied with the Joker in Tom King's recent run for the right to kill Batman over the Joker in the War of Jokes and Riddles, which led to a number of prominent rogues as well as a number of civilians dead. Despite Riddler's frequent cruelty and callousness towards human life, unlike Joker, he's not a murderer. Unlike Catwoman, he's not primarily a thief. He's mostly there just to prove that he's smarter than Batman, more often than not. And the evil is practically incidental. And of course, this most recent portrayal presents Riddler played by Paul Dano as Edward Nashton rather than Nygma, and has a very dark take on the character of the Riddler, with a full face mask and jacket virtually unrecognizable other than the green and the signature question mark, which, despite the changes, I'm very excited for, because it sounds like the focus will be on what made Riddler one of the most compelling Bat villains of all time, which is of course pitting him against Batman's skill as the world's greatest detective. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been the Doomcast. I'll see you next week.